helpful to businesses, because at the end of the day, that's really what we're wanting. So what I've decided to do is put together more of a structured process where I have specific topics that I'm going to be covering, and it's instead of just sort of rambling on about stuff, it's going to be very focused on 3 specific topics. So I'd love to go through those first. You can actually see them behind me right now, which I've been putting some work to. But the first one is going to be the state of digital. So basically taking a look at what's going on with business in the digital space. How are they competing? How are things failing? How are things succeeding, and that sort of thing. And making sure that you have the tools to be able to say, based on this type of information, I should be thinking about this, or, this might be helpful down the road, or whatever the case may be. So it's something to look out for that will kind of keep things rolling and again, give you some value. So that if you are watching live videos, if you are trying to improve your business, that at least you have a place where you can come to get some good ideas and some good concepts that will help move your business forward. So the second one is basically talking with digital leaders from around the world, and this is sort of like a ongoing project. You may or may not know that I have a podcast, Breaking.Digital, that basically I speak with digital influencers and digital leaders from around the world. And so these are going to be sort of short ones, using expert panels, talking about specific current issues that they're facing. So it's basically a complement to the longer podcast where we have a longer type of interview. And in that case, it's going to be short. It's going to be sweet. It's going to talk about some very, very critical issues that most businesses need to know from other experts from around the world as well. So it's going to be a really cool thing. And then the last format that I'm going to use is basically looking at digital discovery or digital blockbuster, whatever you call it. So if you have specific questions, if you have specific concerns about strategy, about marketing, about those kinds of things, then basically we'll take some time. It's going to be an open forum, so obviously you have to be willing and able to turn on your video camera. And we'll go through some ideas about a specific question, specific problem, about digital strategy, digital marketing, how to build your digital platform along the way as well. So we're going to be covering up those topics. So hopefully that's a good understanding, a good rundown of how we're going to approach this. And what I've done as well is set these up. I mean, look, live is live and live. So we're going to be doing a quick test. I want to see how this does. And, but what I did want to also ensure was that we do it on a regular basis. So that, again, it's not sort of some random thing. It's something that you can tune in or watch later, whatever the case may be. But at least you know that this has kind of occurred and that there's something of value here as well. So I'd love your feedback. I'd love to kind of get an understanding of what's helpful, what's not, and that sort of thing. So again, 3 different types of programs coming up soon. So today I'm going to talk about the state of digital. On Wednesday, I'm going to talk about digital leadership with a special guest. And then on Friday, I'm going to be talking about digital discovery or digital blockbuster to kind of help you get pointed in the right direction and get your questions answered. So in terms of getting an understanding of what's important with digital, what I'm doing is I come across a lot of this information in what I do and how I help and that sort of thing. So what I want to do is to make sure that the information that you get is helpful and that it can be used specifically. So I kind of, take a look at all the topics that people are talking about from around the world and say, okay, these are sort of the important ones. So if you do have another topic or another idea for a topic, I'd love to sort of hear what that is. So I really want to talk about what I call the state of digital, what is going on today or within the very short time period that can help people with their business as well. So just going to get started here, making sure that all the tech is obviously working as well, which is super, super important. And I found that's sort of one of the things that can slow things down as well is worrying a little bit too much about the tech. And I think a lot of us, myself included, get sort of caught up in what's going on and how to sort of set these systems up and that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, you really sort of need to see what's going on and just basically use the tech. Focus on your business, obviously, but making sure that what you do is don't rely on the technology is what I'm trying to say. Take a look at how you can actually use that and practice it out, try it out, and see what happens as well. So, and before that, let's just sort this out as well. So as you can imagine, with the state of digital and the state of disruption and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot going on at any specific time. So it is a lot to keep track of. And again, you want to be able to focus in on your specific business. So it's kind of one of those things, what's really important here, what's going on, what's not important, and how to sort of put those things together. So that's what the ultimate goal of this specific broadcast is about, is helping you understand, okay, this is an issue, this is something that I need to be aware of coming up as well. So it looks like we're pretty much all good to go. So, and thanks for joining me as well. So the first one is a story that came in middle of last week in terms of Facebook, as you know, is big, right? How big? Well, it's 2 billion active users, I think, on a monthly basis. And when you look at that, you kind of have to figure if Facebook was your business, what can you do to actually get news and information that's relevant and that's appropriate and that sort of thing to its users. So what they've started to look at is how can we actually change the news feed to take in some, again, technical aspects that not everybody is aware of, so, or at least not paying attention to. So what they've been looking at is how can they sort of rank your news story, rank your posts and that sort of thing based on two core factors: the speed of your website and the speed of your Wi-Fi connection. It's kind of pushes it into that, well, if you don't have a good connection, what do you do type thing. But it does help a little bit in terms of prioritization. So what businesses will have to do is actually decide, okay, well, first off is you need to take a look at your website and see what type of changes you can make to the site. And I've got a few links that I'm going to go through as well. But also making sure that you do have a good Wi-Fi connection as well, so that you are properly broadcasting videos, properly broadcasting other information. If you're uploading videos, it has to be fairly quick. So those are some of the main criteria. The Wi-Fi speed is a little bit hard to deal with, but what you really should be looking at is how fast is your site and what do you need to do to make it a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of tools, like I mentioned, that can actually check that out. If you go to and I'll have all the links in sorry, in the status. I was thinking I'm going to be putting a blog together, a summary as well for some of these links, just so that they're all in place. But if you go to testmysite.thinkwithgoogle.com, you've got tools.pingdom.com, and there's quite a few as well. So Google has a few to check your speed. But look, if you're using a material that doesn't necessarily come from your own site, like if you're using Facebook notes or LinkedIn articles or something like that, there's nothing you can do. The only thing that you can really do is look at your Wi-Fi connection. And obviously you want to have the best one possible. But from a tech side, like, you need to take a look at if you're sharing your blogs, if you're sharing videos from your site, if you're sharing stories or images or pictures, that's where Facebook is going to pick up on this. And they are going to unroll it over the next couple of months. So you do have some time to be able to look into it and see what actually works, or how to improve it over the next couple of months. And they are, like I said, going to be unrolling it. It's no different than Google introducing, they had their mobile site ranking, and that's actually one of the places that you can test your site. You probably should test it on a mobile basis first, but the fact is that you need to take a look at that, see what your speed is and how you can improve it, because that's the experience that, number one, Google was looking for, and number two, now Facebook is looking for. So if they can't provide that experience, they're going to lower the ranking, the priority of your feed for your content that's from your site. So it's very, very important that you sort of take a look at that and see how best to put that in practice. So again, look at testing the site. Just, Google how to test my site for speed or something like that. But like I said, I'll have the links posted as well as you get into it. Making sure that your pages load properly and fast and quick is obviously number one priority for developing a good user experience. So strongly recommend that. A few things you can do to be able to do that. There's a big list. Facebook has gone through and actually provided some instructions in terms of what they can do or what you can do, so which is fantastic. But remove a lot of the JavaScript. Use high quality content delivery network, a CDN, so that your site can be accessed from around the world or from the closest service. Optimize image files, right? This is a big one. Not many businesses do that. They just upload a big file, and it can be quite massive, and it will slow down your site as well. So again, take a look at some of those aspects and what are you going to do for your website to be able to improve it, to make it faster, so that again, you're seeing a priority in the newsfeed. And just going back to that, like if you look at, you have 2 billion users, and obviously not all of those are your friends, right? Facebook needs to be able to rank priority. And one of the ways that it can do is basically saying, okay, what sort of measurement can we use? And this is why having something as simple as Wi-Fi speed as well as site load speed, they're pretty simple. Right? Because if you think about it, 2 billion people, if they're on, whatever, half an hour a day, that's a lot of posts. And even if you say have an average of 1,000 friends, if 1,000 people log on within 24 hours and either post something or share something, that's a lot of information. So they need to really filter that out as quickly as possible. So it's going to be a big issue as we get into it and as the space becomes more competitive. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was digital transformation. And I did a talk about this a couple weeks ago for Frost & Sullivan, talking a little bit more about digital disruption, but disruption and transformation is pretty much the same. And eMarketer is a great source of marketing data and transformation data and that sort of thing. And what they found out was that about 9 out of 10 thought 9 out of 10 respondents felt that the customer experience was at least very important for a business in the digital space as well. And again, what does customer experience mean? Well, it means having quick loading pages. It means having great images. It means having great value that you're providing as well. It's about creating that experience. And like I said, Google and Facebook are saying, hey, we need to improve the customer experience. So making sure that it's very, very important. The next thing that was really important for transformation was creating services and experiences that stand out from the competition. And to me, this is really where you can sort of define your space in terms of how do you disrupt it, how do you transform it. Instead of looking at just, how do we produce a better widget, look at more, how can we actually produce a better experience? How can we produce more value than our competition, not just standing out from the competition? If you ask me personally, standing out from the competition, yes, it's very important, but what does that actually mean? It means that you need to deliver a better experience, a better customer experience, for people to be able to see as well. So that was the study that they did on customer transformation. So what's really important as well, and in summary, it's 80% of respondents to this specific survey were very concerned of being surpassed by their rival. 80%. Right. So what does that mean? To me, that means that there's a lot of stuff that has to be done, a lot of value that has to be delivered. If you're really scared about your competition, then that must mean they're doing a little bit more than you. And in the digital space, you can really see it. You can see it quickly. And that's something that you need to take into account as you grow and scale the business as well. All right, so moving on, I want to talk about Snapchat. Snapchat is a big thing, right? It doesn't always, it's sort of the talk of the town, right? And with Snapchat comes, that instant messaging and that sort of thing. But what's happened recently, if you're not aware, is that Snapchat's parent company, Snap, went onto, I think, one of the New York Stock Exchange or one of the exchanges, and basically it continued to drop. And Snapchat is having a real tough time in terms of getting more users, growing the business, generating revenue, that sort of thing. So besides that, what's also happening to compound those factors is that Facebook, which has purchased Instagram, which owns Instagram rather, they're creating their own Snapchat, basically copying some of the features of Snapchat. We now have word of Google just recently as well saying, hey, you know what, that's not a bad idea, this sort of instant video messaging and that sort of thing. And they've actually started to create their own Snapchat competitor as well, which is pretty cool. The problem is not problem per se, but everybody seems to be copying Snapchat, and their features and how they do it and their overlays and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world, so to speak. So Snapchat is almost crumbling. Their user base has kind of plateaued at about 160 million, which is a lot, but how do they continue to grow that business, and how do they continue to get out there? Or are we sort of seeing the carcass of Snapchat coming up in the next couple of months, which certainly could happen. So if you're using Snapchat, like how does that apply for me? If you're using Snapchat, you really have to look at how are you going to solidify your specific marketing strategy on that channel, and you would probably be using it now to stay in touch with more of the millennial generation. I was hoping I'd be able to have an episode without mentioning that, but you need to be able to understand how you can actually use it. So now's the time, if you are sort of an active user, use it for active marketing for that specific audience group, then see how you can actually fortify and strengthen your strategy, strengthen your user base. And maybe perhaps this is something that you might look at some of the other channels and see if they can sort of duplicate that. And if they can, maybe you should transition over. If you're looking at long-term, which a lot of digital needs to be is more long-term, that's one of the aspects that you should be looking at is how can I take my audience from my specific social media platform, in this case Snapchat, and how can I grow that experience through my web properties, my web platforms, my social media channels as well. So keep that in mind, that not everything that you do has to be specifically on your channel. So or rather on another channel, but you need to move them eventually to something where an actual transaction takes place. So keep in mind that that's where you might want to move your traffic as well. So it's an interesting little thing. We're going to see what happens. Obviously, Instagram is right at the heels of Snapchat, and it's looking like Instagram is going to be, or it has taken the lead rather already in terms of user base and that sort of thing. So, and then if Google enters the market, I mean, will anything happen? Who knows? They've kind of failed big time with other social media channels as well. So that's not necessarily given, but with Instagram, again, beating them down, the Snapchat has got a lot way to go. So if you're using it, take a look at how can you expand that strategy? How can you move them from Snapchat to your own property or a different channel as well as you get into that also. So, and what else? I think that's pretty much it. So those are the core issues that I really wanted to talk about in terms of developing digital and telling you what's sort of important for the state of digital and how that's going and what you need to do to be able to look at that. So if you do have any feedback, please let me know. Would be happy to answer some questions or that sort of thing. So coming up next after this episode in a couple days, we'll be talking more with the more with the vegetables, more with the experts, and see how that goes for different topics and that sort of thing. So thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to developing some topics, some ideas, some insights to keep you rolling with your business. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you online.